So please welcome my second guest, Emily Jane, to the show. Hello, hello. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for taking the time. Sorry for the delay. Jeez, I can't seem
Oh,
to avoid the
not
delays.
me.
So how have you been? You must be quite busy, are you, with all the promotion that you're doing and sending out all the vinyls and all that stuff? How's that going for you?
Yeah. I think yesterday I took my first day off, like my first proper day off work. Um so that was really nice. So I'm just gonna try and enjoy the long weekend. But it's been really good, really busy and keeping really happy doing it all. It's keeping me in a good place. So yeah, delighted to be busy at this time.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, I guess at this time, more than ever, right, to have something to
Yeah.
distract you and something positive, right? Because this is something that I guess you guys have been working on for so long, right? It's been quite long in the process, and it's amazing. By the way, I loved it. I listened to it through and through multiple times, and I think it's absolutely fantastic. What you've done with it. Are you? Did I hear somewhere, and I don't know if I read it somewhere, or were you speaking about it, that you are doing all of the legwork now for it? That you basically have to do all the posting, all the app marketing and all that stuff. Uh,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
It's been interesting. We work with our manager, Anne-Marie Shields. Um, she also does our distribution, and so like all of our digital distribution, that was all a okay. We That was all on plan, but we really wanted the physical distribution to work at the same time.
Mm,
Like we've a worldwide physical distribution deal, so the records were set to be in record stores all over the world, which was really exciting, and we had all the records pressed and everything ready to go.
mm.
But unfortunately, like with all the restrictions and different things, we couldn't get the records out, and that physical distribution has been pushed back, which kind of held up everything for us. But we decided, kind of as a unit, we were like, the records are in my house. Our bass player Ricky lives around the corner. One of my housemates is our guitar player. So we're like, look, let's do this. Like, let's just our bass player made the website himself, and we just figured it out from there. So we've been really overwhelmed by the reaction. Like, I'm pretty much packing all the time, but it's been really nice because it means we're able to put in little notes to people, and like it's bananas how far it's reached as well. Like, I mean, we've posted records to like Helsinki and Texas, and like
Oh,
it's
it's
it
awesome.
yeah, and I don't think we would have fully really realized that if we weren't doing it ourselves. So it's been really, really cool. So it's like a little warehouse. My sitting room is a little warehouse at the moment, but really rewarding. So yeah, shout out to everybody who's been buying the stuff off the website as well, because yeah, it's really great. Like, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, amazing. I'm delighted for you, that you get to keep busy, and yeah, it's a more personable thing, right? Because you're more
Yeah,
involved. There's no middle person, so it's just you guys versus, not versus, but with the client or people interested. And I suppose, yeah,
yeah,
you get a lot of great feedback, and you can personalize it, which is really
yeah.
nice. And it's amazing. You guys have such a far reach. It's absolutely fantastic. And do you know what's actually the this prior to this interview, and I was doing a bit of research on you, and I knew about you before, and being in Dublin, but I was like reading all the wonderful reviews, the magazines had about you, right? And it was just like, you have to see them live, you have to see them live, and I haven't seen you live, so it sucks. I'm here talking to you, and I've listened to your album, I've watched, some of your live interviews, and I haven't seen them live yet. I can't believe it. So I am like etching just to kind of wait till this is all over to actually feel this, this energy that you have been described as so many things live. How are you coping with not playing live?
Yeah, it's been really interesting because like all of us, like there's like a core like we're all really, really close, and there's nine of us. We can do shows sometimes where there's four or five of us, like we chop and change, but at like realistically there's nine people involved. So
Wow.
our that like we're checking in with each other, and some like our one of our BVs is she's in London, and then other people are kind of locked down with their relatives, like looking after vulnerable people, or like like myself and my housemate Joe, he's our guitar player, so we've been able to kind of stay in good touch, the kind of thing. But it's been very
Unavoidable.
strange. Yeah, like we went from seeing each other like 2 3 times a week, definitely at least once a week. We jam at least once a week,
Mm.
and in the run up to everything we were seeing each other constantly, to like not seeing each other. It's been really like 3 months now, and we the gig in the Academy, that was our last show, but we were just gonna announce an Irish tour, and we had some great news coming up for a tour in October, and then some other things in the works for our live shows. Because as you said, like, I mean, it's such a cathartic experience. It's really, really good for us as people to be playing, and it means so much to us. Like, so it's been, I think each one of us has hit that wall where we're like, oh God, I just need to get it off my chest, even if it was just to be in a jam room together, and just like the loudness and the aggressiveness of it is always, you always leave feeling better for it. So that's kind of what we get from our gigs, and we want to give people from our live show, is that like you feel better for it, you know. You might have to feel some things that are a bit uncomfortable, but you'll leave feeling connected and feeling relief. Like, it's okay to be a bit mad sometimes and scream and shout and get a bit sweaty. So definitely, like myself and our drummer Neve, like we'd be really close best mates, and playing live is like, it's so important to both of us. So I think out of everyone, we're feeling it. Like we're both going a bit crazy. She doesn't have a kit at her house
Oh
either.
wow.
So
I'm the same. I'm a drummer and I don't have the kit. And obviously the drums are such an amazing, like for a live sound, you know, a live drum kit. You can't, you know, I'm anti-electric drum kit. You know, the acoustic drums are just,
yeah.
it just adds an inexplainable energy to a live set. And yeah, it's quite medicinal, isn't it? It really is, like going back to what you're saying about, you know, letting yourself go, blowing off the steam and just letting it off for the musician, yourselves, and the people listening, you know, because obviously a lot of people relate, whether it's instrumentally through subconscious emotions to what you are playing sonically to the lyrics that you're providing as well, right? And I suppose with regard to this album that you released, it's through your own experience. It's your expression that you've obviously, you know, I don't want to be, you know, trying to delve in and make my own understanding of your experience or your album, because it's all subjective. And it's, you know, for me listening to it, I come up with my own sort of perception of it and all, which is, that's such a beautiful thing. You know, you can relate to so many people by just you having your story and I'm having a separate story, and this album in the middle is sort of, they could be different stories, but it's definitely making some sort of a connection. It's beautiful. But how have you felt after creating something like this? You know, did you feel like a weight off your shoulder after you finished writing something like this?
Yeah, I think that's the really funny thing, is that like it's been a really long kind of journey, and because we're all so close, we kind of, each person has a favorite song or has attached a certain meaning to different things. And I've referred to it a little bit as like a time capsule, because, you know, obviously it is rooted in parts of my life, things I've seen, things I've experienced. But I think it being so rooted was a really important step, because we've always prided ourselves in being honest and just saying it how it is. And, you know, but then as you get older and you grow and you're in your group of friends and you're in your band, you know, there's a fear of being honest as well. You're like, oh God, like what will people think? What will people say? Will it be received okay? And I think with this album, I just kind of, as I was writing everything, it was such a cathartic thing and such a massive part of my life that I was like, I really don't mind anymore. I think, like you said, the beautiful thing is people who need to take what they need from it will take it. And, you know, I got something from this album as well, like selfishly, like I like you said, was there a sense of relief. And definitely when it came out, it was such an emotional week, because, you know, we're not together, but not to harp on that too much, because there's lots of positive stuff as well. And we did try and make the most out of it. You know, we stayed in touch and we had little Zoom calls, and, you know, we're always just a phone call away from each other. So, you know, I text our bass player Ricky, just being like, I just feel really weird that it's going to be out, because it's that feeling of we've lived with it for so long, and like, you know, it's special. It feels like it feels like a part of my heart and my soul, and we feel very connected to it. And the experience we had recording it, that there was the apprehension of like, will there be judgment? But there's always going to be a judgment,
Sure.
no matter what work you put out. So I kind of, the relief I felt was more of a personal relief, that I felt like, okay, like that's a little part of my life I can move forward from. And you know, I think we all as a band, as a unit, kind of felt like, you know, that's such a special thing, and we can't wait to actually like play the tunes.
Yeah, have you played any of those tunes live?
Yeah, we have.
Okay,
Yeah, so we had
that's
started.
good.
We Yeah, like we were doing smaller gigs in the run up to the release, and then at the Academy at the our last show in March, we played the album start to finish because it's a
Oh,
concept
brilliant.
album. So we kind of wanted to bring people through that, and try and get that across. And it was honestly, all of us agreed, the best gig that we've ever had, like in the history of shows, because
Amazing.
there was no doubt, like we had put in all the work, like where even if you felt like you were going to play the wrong thing, your hands knew better. Like it was just a muscle memory at that stage where
Yeah.
you were really able to enjoy and lock in with each other and experience that performance together, because we just know the album and we feel the album and we want to get that across. So really feel like that was a really special gig for us to end on. Like I think everything's on pause, and yet the shows I mentioned earlier, we started working with MPI, and our booking agent, his name is Julian, and he's fantastic. And so all those shows are just on pause. So everything's going to happen. So I do want to keep positive about it. Sometimes you're like, oh, it really sucks that we can't gig, but
Yeah.
we and we'll get to do that soon. So
Yeah, yeah. It's funny, like, 'cause it's hard to almost know where the mental sort of conversation goes, right? Because it's where I think artists are naturally, obviously expressive, even in their wording and to describe a situation. And there's both parts to it, right? There's black and white, there's good and bad, and it's okay to look at sort of, okay, there is an issue here, obviously, with what's happening in the world. There's a lot of
yeah.
weird energy, first of all, weird vibes. We don't know what's going on, or we know what, as humans, it's a shock to us. We've never had like this kind of situation happen to us in the modern world. Blessed with technology in a way, right? With communication and all that kind of stuff, people can still create and share it across the world, which is a blessing. Imagine without internet and stuff. So there is that, you can kind of talk about the negative, but go into the positive ultimately as well in the
Yeah.
end. So there is that sort of tug of war happening, I think, in a lot of people, isn't it? And at the beginning, I guess it was a shock, and then we kind of start to go through the stages of what's that? The stages of loss, isn't it? Or
Yeah, like I think one of the main things that like you come back to is, it's really okay to feel a bit shit about it for a while. You're allowed kind of go, because a lot of the time we revert back to going, oh well, so many people have it worse than we do right now. But let yourself have an hour or a day where you just like feel like you've lost, like we've all lost our kind of normal regime. So it's really okay just to be a bit sad for a minute and then pick yourself back up and try and find the positive. But I do believe like trying not to be really hard on yourself is really important right now. Like and another thing like we always talk about is we're just not hot wired for change. Like and like back in the day, like we'd follow animals to follow our food. So we're really used to just like doing whatever it takes, and like change isn't good. So we'll follow the animals that already exist that we know we can eat, and that's fine. We're not going to wait around and see what happens. So that's actually just hot wired in our DNA, is like change is like, I don't like this at all. So it's okay to be a bit afraid with all of that. But I think I like the kind of idea that things are just on pause, especially with creative things. Like we can keep creating, we can keep building, and creating art is really important. But things will get better. I think.
oh yeah, we'll come out of it, and
Yeah,
it won't, nothing lasts forever, right? In that
yeah,
kind of way. I mean, that can be seen as well as kind of a dark thing, right?
yeah,
But like I'm actually really curious. Still reverting back to the album creation process. Was there a time, because obviously, like I say, it's a concept album, so you had to really kind of refine sort of how how the album progresses from your introduction, your middle, and then your ending, right? It's like writing a story, and you have broken it into 4 chapters, I believe.
yeah.
So were there any songs that you sort of added in any last minute changes, like crucial last minute, or last minute, we have to get rid of this one? Was it always 12 songs? Was there anything crucial? I'd be very curious to hear like how that works, because I'll talk later, but I'd love to hear this point first.
Yeah, I think like I had started off the process. I kind of knew I knew that it was all going to be new. I knew that it was all going to be written as a body of work, and I obviously like we've grown as a band, and it just felt like we had shifted so much that the material needed to shift with us. And my writing style had kind of changed again and evolved again. So it's like this needs to be its own body and it needs to be its own story. But that started very much on my bedroom wall with I had like 333. I had that was the first song on the album I wrote, and I remember that being so visceral and aggressive, and in rehearsals literally crying, like being like, I don't know why this song has appeared, but it has. And that was kind of the trigger for like, okay, this is something that needs to be worked through. And like that started it off. But I remember like a few months after, I was writing all the ins and outs and different tunes, but like not so long after that, Fucker arrived, and that's the last song. So I had written the first and last song within a very small space of each other. So on my wall, I had like the first song and the last song, and over the process of writing, it all filled itself in. And I kind of put the framework together because I write quite thematically. So I kind of quite an overactive brain. So I have to put the limitation on it to go, okay, that's fitting within this theme in order for me to actually finish it. Because if I don't put the restrictions on it, it's like a never ending 45-minute song that like no one wants to
You
hear.
can just keep adding to it and keep
Yeah,
adding,
like
right? Okay, so you're skimming sort of the stuff you don't need,
yeah,
right?
like we go into jams and like we always start our jams with like, it can vary from a 20-minute just let's just all do a bit of free flow and like we'll rip into it. We could do 20 minutes or 2 hours and you wouldn't feel the difference. You could just be lost in this movement of music. So that's something I really love is we'll always start a jam that way where we're just all, you might need to just shake off the day. So you just turn up your guitars and get real weird with it for like a little while
Do
and
you
then you start,
do you, do you record your jams? You'd have to, I
yeah,
guess, right?
so I'd actually be so upset if I lost my phone. Yeah, but yeah, like I've kept all those recordings. I've some of those recordings from when we first started as a band. But you're asking like what was like a crucial song and like a like kind of last minute change was I think like would have been about 3 or 4 weeks before we were doing studio like and I knew that I wanted to write like Daddy Issues. I knew that was something I wanted to do, but it's such a kind of in your face song and a very difficult song. But we had a jam in Ricky in his house sometimes. We use his dad's office to jam, which is like shout out to Ricky's parents as always. Thank you so much for putting up with our nonsense. But yeah, like we jam in the front room and we had one of those like 20-minute jams and it was Daddy Issues, but it was like totally convoluted. It was like all these different sections. So I listened back to that recording quite a lot and I just condensed it down to like, okay, here's 3 minutes, right? These are the best sections that we got. So that's all free flowing. And me and our guitar player were walking to practice. And as we were walking to practice, I was like singing the melodies and he was like, what if we did this? What if we done that? So we got to the jam and Ricky and Neve were there, our drummer and our bass player. And we just, within 15 minutes, Daddy Issues came together.
Amazing.
And we were kind of there like, yeah, that's it. That's definitely going on the album. That's what it's this crucial. It was a song that I was afraid to write for so long. And then once we had it, it was like instantly everybody's favorite. We were just like, yes, this is the song. We love it. Fantastic. And it got put on the album. So yeah, Daddy Issues was the last minute kind of put that on there. It should be fine.
slap it on.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. So I guess it was there in you. It was subconsciously. You were holding it back.
Yeah.
And then it just came out naturally through a stream of consciousness, really, isn't there? A stream of conscience, like, really, isn't it? Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, and that only really comes from just trusting the people you play with. Like, there's just this inherent, you can say whatever you want and scream whatever you want and be as loud as you want in a jam room, and there's kind of no judgment. So I feel like Daddy Issues is a real good example of, yeah, it's like one of the first tracks, and it just takes getting to the end of the journey to really see where it started. So I think that's where it came from. But definitely as well, our growth as a band meant, right, here, look, I'm just going to shout all this crazy shit and you guys
You're gonna have to take
can,
it.
yeah, you can do whatever you want with it. I don't mind.
You lock the door. You're not allowed to leave the room. You're gonna have to put up with this. And was that the first single you released as well? Was it?
Yeah, it
Yes,
was.
that's crazy. And it's the last
Yeah.
song you wrote, and the first song to release, unexpected, 3 weeks or a month before.
Yeah.
Amazing how that happened. So I'm glad I asked that question because I was quite curious. Was there? And I was like, oh no, maybe not. Maybe, maybe they've.
Yeah,
But there you go. I guess it happens more often than not, probably with
yeah,
musicians. So regarding trusting, a band and people you work with, have you been with these guys since you went to BIM, right? Is that correct?
yeah,
Did
yeah.
did you
So
play with the guys in BIM, or did you meet them there?
yeah, so me and our drummer, Neve, we went to Ballyfermot together. So and our current guitar player Joe, we all went to Ballyfermot. We were, God, like 17, 18 when we met, and we were all in the band. We actually had this recently. We had like a Zoom Q&A, and people were asking us this, and they're like, "What was the name of the first band you were in?" Like, we were like, "Listen, actually, we were 17, 18. It was an okay band. We were okay for being 17, 18. So we were in a band called Bamboo Party, and
Bamboo Party. Okay,
yeah, oh,
excellent.
fantastic. Like, I learned so much. We gigged constantly. I loved the music we played, and I learned an awful lot. Like, in that band and in Ballyfermot, especially the
Mm.
class that I was in, there was musicians who were a little bit older than me, and I just watching them. And I played in probably 7 or 8 bands while I was in Ballyfermot. I played like bass in a band. I played like keys in a band. I sang with
You've got to try
everyone.
it all.
Yeah, I just wanted to learn. And then when I got to BIM, I kind of had found, okay, I figured out kind of what I wanted to say and my style, and I started kind of playing guitar properly, and start learning guitar properly. And I met Ricky, our bass player, and Eve, and we were, yeah, like we all studied together, came up together. Our current guitar player Joe, he didn't play with us initially, but about, oh God, like 3 years ago now, he joined back in with us. Like, and he's quite a jazz theory kind of very intricate player, and I'm more of a feel it
Punk.
out, it's cool. So that balance was really important. So I think that really opened up our sound again, where it was like someone who kind of, it makes me feel like, okay, I want to like figure out what I'm actually playing as well, because,
Mm.
and he's always like sometimes I remember his first jam with us, me and Ricky walked over and like turned his guitar amp up. We were like, come on, like you need to kind of get into this
You
a
need to
little bit
punk it up a
more.
bit because it's jazz
Yeah,
kind of punk, isn't it? In a way, like that's how one way I suppose you could describe the sound,
yeah,
right? Which is really interesting. It's a really interesting mix within genre that works. Isn't that crazy? Was that sound like that was obviously just kind of accidental? It just came along through a mix of personal
yeah. I
tastes and
think
stuff.
because like I started learning guitar quite later in my life, like I would have been about 19, 20 when I started taking it seriously. And I lived with a group of guys, and they'd go out partying and I'd stay home, and like they'd set up the pedal board with a bass or a guitar, and I'd just stay there till like 3 in the morning, like working out like all these weird sounds. They'd come home from a night out and I'd be like, check out this like cool, trippy, like riff, you know? And so I learned that way in that house in my first year of college. And through kind of learning guitar that way, I didn't learn the basic like chords or the basic like theory behind guitar. I just kind of learned shapes, and so I play primarily in shapes and what strings I think sound nice
Mm.
together. So I'd usually be very specific in what I'm playing string wise. I wouldn't.
Hmm.
I'd kind of pick it out that, oh, I like those strings together. I don't really like when I strum it, but I like the strings. And so that kind of led to this jazzier kind of tone. I was always working with like sevenths and stuff in
Hmm.
what I was picking and what I liked. And then yeah, then like when Joe started kind of picking apart songs and what I was doing, turns out like I play in weird time signatures a lot too. But I always think, oh man, that's just 4/4, and it's like, Emily, that's in seven. What's going on? Like, how do you not know that's in seven? But I think
That's
there's,
not your job to know. That's the drummer's job.
yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for like now that I'm evolving and you're constantly learning anyway. Like that like my love of guitar and learning it that way kind of led to, then that's a great foundation for Joe to use all of his like theoretical jazz knowledge, because I'm already
Mm.
hitting on things that he can really bring color to.
Hmm.
And yeah, like Ricky, our bass player, he studied drums in BIM, so he kind of picked up bass and was learning it similar to me. So we can be quite like, let's just feel it out, like, and that's really exciting when we do it. But every so often you get hit with the, why isn't this working? And it's like really weird. And like Neve, our drummer, gives me the side eye of like, no, I'm not doing that. Like,
It goes
like
too
I'm not,
far, right?
yeah, like stop doing that. But we get there. We always get there. So it's really, I And then like yeah, the punk element is just from, I remember my friend Joey, an amazing blues guitar player, like a wonderful, wonderful blues guitar player. And I remember being like, just everybody keeps telling me to like learn guitar and like an acoustic guitar and like learn all the chords and all. And I just don't want to. Like, I don't want to play acoustic guitar. I'm just like, it's not the sound. He goes, then get an electric guitar. Like, whatever way you want to play, get the electric, get a distortion pedal. And that's the, like, once I did that, I just found my sound immediately. So I hate that kind of myth of you have to learn on acoustic before you get electric. It's just
Sure.
get the electric and like figure it out, you know. And ever since then, yeah, like I love exploring guitar that way, where it's not just this strict set of like these are the things. You can do whatever the you want with it. Like
Whatever feels right. And I guess for you, it takes a little bit of time, right? For in your with your respect to, because you go by the sound, the tones, I guess. So
yeah.
you can't just like look up online and go, oh, that tone or that one. You have to hold it and play it yourself, right? There's
And
a
the thing is, like, I have a degree in music, but like music theory was always something I really struggled with because, like, I struggle with kind of like numbers and like symbols. I always struggled with stuff like that. So music theory really relates back to that. So I couldn't. I struggled with it the same way I struggled with maths in school. Like I
mm,
literally, like I learned it like for memory, and then it went out of my memory. Like I learned it to
to pass
pass
the
my
exam.
assessment, but like it never stuck. And I always felt like not great about that until I realized there's other elements of being a musician that can like account for that or make up for that. Where it's like, you know, I really have honed my ear to figure out like, okay, like what can I do? So constantly learning and definitely trying to get better at theory, but
Mm.
not the best with
Yeah, I
it.
mean, I guess there's sort of two sides. Well, I'm sure there's many, many more in between, but from my perception and opinion, more so, there's like two sides to kind of creation. There's a musical, I suppose, performance even. So there's the logical, theoretical sort of left brain way to approach it. And you get a lot of amazing musicians that play in orchestras or that are just absolutely genius and they can read the sheet music there and then when you just put it in front of them. But they couldn't create a piece out of nothing almost. They can't play without sheet music, so they're missing. And that's the extreme, right? I'm saying
Yeah,
that from my sorry dad for giving you a shout out here, and he's an amazing classical. He plays for the National Symphony Orchestra, and here's me
yeah,
talking about him. But like he's more that kind of type, you know what I mean? In my opinion, now he's probably going to come here now and give me a backhand slap. But then there's those that are just extremely creative and emotive, and they're constantly creating and exploring different sounds. And so I do believe that there is, and there's a lot in between, I guess, And I guess that can depend as well how much work you want to put into working on the logical side, right? Or the creative side, or can we even do that? How our brains work is a mystery.
it's very funny all the like Zoom quizzes and stuff that are happening right now. Like I lose every single Zoom quiz, and I'm like, but I'm street smart,
Yeah, yeah,
okay?
yeah, yeah. You just got to put that in there at the
Yeah,
end.
and so like with music, I'm like, yeah, I may not like know the ins and outs, but like I'm I'm musically smart. I just don't know how to tell you how I'm musically
Yeah,
smart.
yeah. Just put it like one of those stickers on the screen there on the top right, just to say that, I'm just here just to kind of, I'm just chilling.
Yeah,
I'm not taking part, but I'm musically smart, by the way. So, um,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. How on earth did you record 12 songs in 3 days with nine musicians? How does that happen?
We really got really lucky because like to be honest, like we're all very anxious because we're all really anxious because we love playing live, so that can put pressure on if you haven't jammed in 2 or 3 weeks and then you have a gig. We could play that gig and know that everybody knows the tunes, but we wouldn't enjoy it as much because you're kind of you're having to feel it out more and you lean on each other. So that can come with being in a band a long time, but all of
Mm,
us kind of don't like that anxiety. Like me and our drummer, we kind of often like with anxiety and nerves before a show. It's like we'll say, think of how many times we played these songs. Like think of how much practice we've put in.
mm,
So we practice quite a lot, but we don't really give ourselves credit for it. Like we're always like, it's not enough. We should be doing way more. And like you could be coming off the back of a full Sunday of like, you're playing 12 till six that whole day, and you'll be like, that's not enough for the week, and you're like we can be very hard on ourselves that way. So we had been putting in lots of practice in the run up to the album. Like, we were seeing each other all the time, we were talking about the songs a lot. And so we had 3 days booked in Camden Studios with Connor Brady, our engineer. We were like, we'll just get the drum and bass down for the 12 songs, because like, that makes sense, you know, that like, and we can add things later. And the way that we knew we'd get the best drum and bass performance was if everybody was set up. So we were like, let's everybody get set up. Now, in terms of brass and backing vocals, a lot of that was done after, like later on during the days. But the core kind of five of us, our percussion player, Neve, our drummer, Ricky, our bass player, me and Joe, we were all set up, and we just, it was kind of this instantaneous. We had mapped out every song with clicks, and we were like playing along. We started with Daddy Issues, and we were playing to a click, and we were like, this doesn't feel good. Like, this doesn't feel good for Neve. No, it wasn't clicking first. Clicking first. But so we just decided, we were like, okay, let's just do it at a click and see how we get on. And then there was just this energy immediately in the room where everyone was just buzzing, like we were like ready to go. So we just ran with that momentum, and we played through, like, we'd done everything kind of in order. And then the four kind of transitionary songs, Cleanse, Sink, Drown and Float, they were all just like quite in the room moments. Like, as a group, we had maybe run through them maybe once or twice before studio. We genuinely thought that we'd do them later on, because they were only kind of coming together later in the process. And then the energy in the room kind of, it felt right. It was like, these are telling the story, so let's just capture that. And I really feel like we got that in Drown specifically, and just really loved that moment. Will always stick with me, because it was such a fragile moment for all of us in studio. And so by the end of it, I remember us sitting in Camden Studio, Connor, our engineer, and we'd listened to the album start to finish, and we were just like, how how did this happen? Like, and so after the fact, we done like an additional 1 or 2 days in the studio in BIM. I worked as a receptionist there, and so I would always go in on my lunch times and stuff like that, and graciously they gave us the studio for a day or two, and we put on some additional brass, so you can hear that kind of, with drugs, you can understand kind of when you hear those brass lines, that's kind of Joe's work. He really mapped that out and stuff like that. So that brass we done additionally, and then there's additional percussion that I engineered and I recorded, which is really fun, and it was a really kind of nice moment for me to get that done. So I worked with Dara on that, and then there's 2 tracks, so Over and Other Side, I redone the vocal for on my own, in studio on my own. I just really felt quite fragile about both of those songs, and I really wanted to push myself to capture those. So I definitely done way too many takes of vocals, in particular with Over, but I think eventually I got there. But those were 2 big mountains that I personally wanted to climb, and then with the backing vocals, I engineered them as well, and some of those later on with the girls. So it was, all in all, with the additional stuff, it was about 5 days work, really, recording everything.
That's amazing. That is absolutely amazing.
But yeah, like I love that it's now, it is a live album. Like there was very little tweaking in terms of the proper foundations of the album, but then the mixing process, we were really trying to get that right with Connor Brady, and mixed it as well, and I thought it was really important, because he got really connected to us. He's like kind of a 10th member now, so really, really glad that we had someone who really listened to us, you know. So yeah
no, it's absolutely amazing. I'd love to chat to you more, Emily, because there's so many questions I could ask you, but I have more guests to attend to. But thank you so much for taking the time on a lovely Saturday. You know, sorry to be taking you in from your vital vitamin D. You know, we all need a bit of that.
like, so it's totally cool.
I was going to ask you before as well. Are there plans? I know you're already in the midst of marketing, and you're obviously you took your day off. You need breaks and stuff like. But are you thinking already ahead with anything in the studio? Is there anything you might have? I read somewhere you might have something at the end of the year planned.
Yeah, so, because people are really like buying the record, like properly buying it, and our t-shirts, they're starting like we're properly making money now. So it looks
Amazing.
like there's a second album and an EP there that I've been demoing at the moment, and so we will be hoping to get into the studio at the end of the year, and it'll most likely be the EP, but the EP is slowly kind of becoming an album. And the longer I'm alone, the longer. So we'll see. But definitely, we will hopefully be releasing in the new year, and we have really really cool gig plans as well. So just gonna stay positive and yeah, like thanks to everybody for all the support. It really has like made our whole album release that everybody has kind of come behind it so much. It's really cool.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah,
I'm absolutely delighted that the album is such a success for you guys, and it's well deserved. You know the amount of work you put into it, and the amount of it's like your live gigs have been described. You know, just this raw, real emotion, and I guess it's great that you didn't do the click in the end. You know what I mean? Because it does
yeah,
pay
yeah.
that respect to your live
Well,
sort
we
of.
say it all the time. Like, if you see Neve Casey drumming live, she's a click. Like, we never needed it. It was just kind of
Mm.
a like she like just to give her some security. But Neve is the best drummer like in Ireland, and I will say that. And people can come for
Be
me if they want.
be
Come for
careful.
me.
Somebody might snatch her up.
Well, no, there's a lot of love in Neve. We have a lot of arrangements between us.
There
But
you heard
yeah,
it, guys. In case you have any
yeah.
ideas, yeah.
But snap her up like part time or whatever. But she's my full time ride or die. So
There you go. There you go. Don't get any ideas.
yeah.
Awesome, Emily. Listen, have a great day, and it's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you. And I look forward to hearing more news from you.
Yeah, thank you. Bye
See you
bye.
later. Bye, bye, bye. All right. So that was Emily Jane from the absolutely awesome band Vernon Jane. And yeah, I'm gonna play. I have to play as a song. Of course I do. I'm not gonna leave you hanging. Don't worry, guys. And I'm gonna play you. Oh, so many good songs in this album. I'm gonna play "Daddy Issues" because we mentioned it. So let me load it up. And this song, okay, just to let you know if you are tuning in, was written a month. It came together a month before they were in the studio. So already after creating the concept and already writing most of the album, this song came almost subconsciously to Emily, and yeah, and it was their first single released as well. So this is "Daddy Issues" by Vernon Jane.